Tehran has reportedly released 10 US sailors seized after straying into Iranian waters in the Persian Gulf. It comes after the Iranian military said it had received an apology from America. Our Middle East correspondent Paula Slee has been following events.
The United States has apologized to Iran after 10 U.S. sailors crossed into Iranian waters. Now, previously we did hear from the chief of the Iranian Navy saying that these U.S. sailors would be interrogated and that Tehran would behave properly if indeed it was found that they were on a snooping mission. It follows a report from Tehran that another U.S. vessel, an aircraft carrier, was acting to, quote, provocatively and unprofessionally after Iran seized 2 American boats. The U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry telephoned the Iranian Foreign Minister Javad Zarif in an effort to start negotiations. Zarif demanded that the United States issue a formal apology and at the same time acknowledge that this was a breach of Iranian sovereignty. But what is interesting is the timing of all of this. It comes at a crucial moment after the normalization of relations between Iran and the United States after the signing of the nuclear deal. And it comes just before the American President Barack Obama's State of the Nation address, in which he prefaced and mentioned that agreement and spoke very highly about it. Certainly what it does point to, though, is that Iran will not shy away from defending itself.
Well, let's get more insight on this now and bring in Mohammad Marandi, the Dean of the World Studies faculty at Tehran University. Mr. Marandi, welcome back to RT International. Iran took a hard line with the US over this incident. How do you think it's going to play out for relations between the countries, which really do now seem to be improving?
Well, I think that the Iranians played it very rationally, as they always do with the Americans. The Americans entered Iranian territory. The Iranians arrested them. They said they'll carry out an investigation to see if this was truly a mistake or whether this was some sort of provocation. The Iranians concluded, I think so far, that it was a genuine mistake, and they treated those people who were detained very well. The Americans, on the other hand, continue to behave irrationally. Almost immediately after these vessels were detained in Iranian territorial waters, a U.S. aircraft carrier as well as U.S. naval ships took provocative actions very close to Iranian territorial waters. And the Iranians, the Navy, the Revolutionary Guards, told them that you are behaving irrationally and provocatively and unprofessionally. But after a while, the actions of the U.S. Navy died down. They began to behave more reasonably, and the U.S. government contacted Iran, and that's the end of the story. So I think that the problem has been solved, but it shows that Iranian behavior has been much better in this instance than the American behavior.
And what about on the protocol spectrum of all this? The idea that someone incurs into someone else's territory, there's a seizure, arrest, someone apologizes. How much is that just going by the book there? Or how much does this illustrate that the cordiality between Iran and the United States is probably more paper thin than they'd like to admit to?
Well, I think that if it was the other way around, the Americans would have behaved much more aggressively. And we have to remember, just a couple of weeks ago, the Americans were claiming that the Revolutionary Guards fired rockets near American ships. The Iranians, of course, denied it and said that this is just American propaganda. But in this case, we actually did see 2 American ships inside Iranian territorial waters. The Iranians were quick to detain them, but not a single shot was fired. So it shows that the American narrative on Iran and the Iranian previous actions are unreliable. But you are correct. It is a difficult situation. We have to keep in mind the United States repeatedly, the U.S. president repeatedly says all options are on the table. Senior American officials repeatedly threaten Iran with military strikes, which, from an Iranian perspective, this itself is a terrorist act to try to create fear in the hearts of ordinary people. But the Iranians were firm in this case, professional, and hopefully the Americans will learn a bit from the Iranians.
Okay, appreciate you sharing your opinions on this. Mohammed Morandi, Dean of the World Studies Faculty at the University of Tehran. Thanks for joining us on the programme.